This is its financial history too, where money's past reveals tomorrow's truth. Every country on earth is drowning in debt. But here's the part nobody tells you. If the whole world is in debt, who is the world actually indebted to? Because when you follow the money far enough, something shocking appears. The world doesn't owe anyone else. The world owes itself. And that should terrify you. Welcome to It's Financial History too, where money, power, and history collide. And nothing is ever as simple as it looks. Debt isn't just a burden. Debt is the architecture of the modern world. Every war, every crisis, every market crash, every boom, they all sit on top of an invisible scaffolding of IOUs. Today, global debt has exploded past $315 trillion, almost 3 times the size of the entire world economy. But to understand how we reached this absurd number, we need to go back to the very beginning, to the moment national debt was invented. Not on Wall Street, but on a battlefield. In 1694, England was fighting France and running out of gold. Desperate, the king turned to merchants. In exchange for a permanent stream of interest payments backed by future taxes, they agreed to finance the crown. And to manage this new arrangement, the Bank of England was born. For the first time in history, the state could spend money it didn't yet have. And what the lenders received was priceless, a government promise. A promise that could be traded, bought, sold. The birth of the government bond, the seed that grew into the entire modern financial system. France copied it. The Netherlands perfected it. The United States adopted it to fight the revolution. Soon, national debt wasn't a sign of failure. It was a sign of power. Empires once conquered gold. Now they issued bonds. The battlefield shifted from the front lines to the balance sheet. Fast forward 3 centuries. Debt isn't just a tool, it's the world's biggest export. The US owes over $38 trillion. Japan more than $9 trillion. The EU around $14 trillion. And every 100 days, global borrowing jumps by another trillion. Every nation owes. Every bank lends. Every citizen, through taxes, pensions, and savings, is both a debtor and a creditor. But who actually holds the other end of the rope? Let's start with the United States. Of America's $38 trillion, about half is held by investors, not foreign governments. And 2/3 of those investors are American. Banks, pension funds, mutual funds, insurance companies, and the Federal Reserve. Only about $9 trillion is held overseas, with Japan and China owning the largest portions. So when people say America is in debt to China, they're technically right, but only for about 2% of the total. Most of America's debt, America owes to America. Treasury issues bonds, gives banks buy them, gives the Fed buys them back, gives Americans pay taxes, gives taxes pay the interest, gives interest flows into American retirement funds. It's not a debt chain, it's a mirror. And this isn't just America. It's the entire planet. Japan buys US bonds. The US lends to Europe through the IMF. Europe lends to developing nations. Developing nations lend back by storing their reserves in Western bonds. A global circle of promises, a planetary hot potato made of IOUs. Behind all this? A shadow ecosystem of hedge funds, pension funds, sovereign wealth funds, and central banks controlling tens of trillions. They are the silent referees of the world economy. They decide who borrows cheaply and who must fight for survival. When they lose confidence, entire nations collapse. Currencies die. Governments fall. Democracy decides leaders. Markets decide survivors. And at the center of everything stands the modern high priest of money, the central bank. Central banks don't just manage debt. They manufacture it. Every bond they buy creates new money. Every dollar is someone else's liability. There is no such thing as debt-free money. Every coin, bill, and digital dollar carries an invisible IOU. So why doesn't the system collapse? Because the world runs not on repayment, but on confidence. Governments don't pay down their debt. They roll it over forever. Japan has refinanced its debt for decades, now over 250% of GDP, and investors still line up to buy more. Because for investors, government debt isn't a burden. It's the safest asset in existence, the foundation of the global financial system. If the US ever paid all its debt, the world economy would collapse overnight. Banks would lose their safest asset. The dollar supply would evaporate. Global deflation would trigger mass failure. To pay down the debt would destroy the very thing that keeps the system alive, so the system does the opposite. It grows the debt rhythmically. The debt becomes the heartbeat of capitalism. But here's the part politicians never admit. Debt is not designed to be repaid, it's designed to be believed. Once belief falters, the numbers stop mattering. Interest rates spike, currencies crumble, nations fall. And that's when creditors, the ones usually invisible, suddenly appear. The rating agencies. The anonymous bondholders pulling entire countries by the throat, in Greece, in Argentina, and Sri Lanka. Every collapse exposes the same truth. Debt isn't just economic, it's political. It's personal. Because while nations owe money to themselves, the benefits do not flow equally. Interest flows upward from workers and taxpayers to corporations, institutions, and wealthy investors. Global inequality and global indebtedness rise together because they're the same machine. The people who own debt get richer. The people who pay debt get poorer. Debtors aren't victims. Creditors aren't villains. They are two gears in the same engine. But if the engine ever stops, if new borrowing can't keep up with old promises, that is when the illusion shatters. And we're forced to remember what debt really is. A promise that can't be kept forever. If this changed the way you think about global debt, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. History has the answers, and I'll show you where to look.